Sandy Charles with Devil's Digest, and I'm joined by our publisher, Hode Rubino, and we just had a tour of the new student-athlete facility and a Coach Graham press conference. We're going to talk about all of that right now, but first, Hode, lots of bells and whistles with this new SAF, but there's more that went into it. What were your takeaways?
Well, I feel that, granted, it's very appealing to the eye, and there's a lot to be amazed and impressed about when it comes to that facility. But at the same time, I really feel that the facility is more practical than people think it is. I think it has more substance than people think it does. I think that's the proximity of everything. When you have, for example, a training room, which is much bigger than what they had over here at the Carson Center, right off the locker room area. You have the academic area on the same floor as the coach's office. Obviously, all the coaches' offices are near the meeting rooms. All the meeting rooms can be captured both video and audio, so you can look back at those meetings, see if something worked really well that you want to implement in the future, or something wasn't working that great that you want to correct on. Everything is just really spacious. Just a lot of room to operate with, and again, just the practicality. I mean, just going through the normal day of an ASU football player, just having all the different rooms, all the different departments, if you will, just situated in a way that makes sense. That way, when you're an ASU football player and you're spending so much of your day over here, everything is done in a very efficient, practical manner, with not a lot of downtime or anything like that, just trying to get from one end to a building to another to do this function or that function. So that's something that really impressed me. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, like you said, you have to have some bells and whistles. You have to have some, awe moments with, great murals and just up-to-date equipment and whatnot, both whether it's the weight room or just audio-video equipment. But again, I just feel that the way this facility is built, it just really makes sense, and that's something Todd Graham talked a lot about in the tour and in the press conference. So that's something that really impressed me, and I think that's one intangible that I believe that Arizona State coaches are projecting to recruits just as much as having a bigger facility and having all the latest equipment.
Now the motto, Sun Devil Tough, the new motto, it comes right at a time, unfortunately, with Frank Kush passing. Do you think that was the missing ingredient the last 2 years that they can take into this year?
Yeah, I think it really makes sense to have that motto. I mean, unfortunate with Frank Kush's passing for that motto to be remembered in that vein too. But absolutely, I mean, you and I talked so much last year about the lack of running game, the offensive line not playing as well, especially in that six-game skid. And I feel that toughness is probably the first thing that comes to mind. Like, what was the missing ingredient from those two aspects? And even on defense, I mean, you can talk about the worst passing defense in the country back-to-back years. But one thing that I think that hasn't been talked about enough, at least maybe in other media outlets, but something I talked a lot about, is look at that six-game skid at the run defense. And again, what does it come back to? It comes back to toughness. So sure, I mean, I think that toughness is something that you want to have every year, but there's no doubt that if you're just looking at one aspect, that players can take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, we were not good in this aspect or not good in this department. I think toughness is definitely one of the things that does come to mind. And I think that tough teams, even a conference like the Pac-12, where you think it's all about flashy offenses and just unbelievable passing games and trick plays and whatnot, it really comes down to line of scrimmage battles. Who's going to win those? I mean, just look at a team like Stanford. I mean, Stanford's never going to run the spread. Stanford is never going to have, an unbelievable quarterback that's going to pass for 4,000 or plus yards, but they're definitely going to have a strong running game. They're going to have an unbelievable offensive line that does such a great job protecting the quarterback, let alone supporting the run game. And obviously a defensive line that makes the opposing quarterbacks, opposing running backs' lives miserable. So I do like that motto about the Sun Devil Tough. I think it's simple. I think it just really makes sense. And again, it's a genuine component you can look at that was not there in 2015 and 16, and at least in my opinion, there's no way this team even improves by 1 or 2 wins without having better toughness than they did.
Now let's talk a little bit about the investment that went into not only this facility, but Coach Graham touched on it. These players invested so much this summer. Going forward, and they talked about yesterday, their leadership and how they're all wanting to step up. What are your takeaways looking forward, fall camp starting, the leadership and the investment that these guys put into?
Yeah, I think we did hear about the toughness from the players yesterday when we went to the Breaking the Rock ceremony, signifying the last summer workout. But another thing that I was really impressed from hearing from the players is let's talk about that self-leadership, not waiting for coaches to tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Just leadership that's coming from within. It was funny to hear somebody like DJ Calhoun, who came here as a 17-year-old freshman in 2014, but he felt that summer of 2014 was a special summer, and one reason was the leadership. I mean, sure, the talent had to be there, and Calhoun did say that he sees a level of talent that's very close to 2014, but he also just sees that leadership, and like you said, that investment of the players, really that intangible that a lot of folks sometimes don't mention enough or don't think it's that important. But 2014, as we know, was one of Todd Graham's best years over here with 10 wins. And to hear DJ Calhoun say that, I mean, sure makes you optimistic. And I know everybody's optimistic this time of year. But I thought it was interesting for DJ Calhoun to mention that this felt like 2014 in terms of those intangibles that maybe people don't talk too much about. So I thought that was interesting. And when Todd Graham in his press conference mentioned that the self-leadership it also comes from the new assistants, but it seems like the new assistants are really guiding the players, but really not overbearing. They're not just hitting them over the head. You got to be a leader. You got to be a leader. They just give out some pointers, set out the initial track, and then the players just take it from there and run with it. And I think that that's something, again, if we talk about a missing ingredient like toughness, I think leadership, I think accountability really is something that was missing from last year. And I think that's something that, at least for now, is definitely more prevalent in the program. So I think that's something to definitely be encouraged about. And really the bottom line is, not to try to do things from last year. I mean, I said it many times before during the off season. I mean, time will tell if Arizona State's going to make an improvement, let alone a significant improvement. But one thing that you can say for sure, that everybody from Todd Graham until the last player on the team are trying to do things different, are trying to take a real hard look at what did not go wrong last year and what has to be corrected. So if nothing else, that attitude, that atmosphere is really fostered for the program. And who knows? I mean, maybe the new facility does bring Arizona State a little more luck. I mean, maybe just players have just a little more pep in their step and wanting to spend a little more extra time in the weight room because it's all nice and shiny. And when we talk about injuries being such an issue last year, with the medical training facility of that building being such an advancement over last year, and even something nutrition that a lot of people don't talk about. Todd Graham said that the kitchen in the new facility is so much better than the kitchen in the Carson Center right now. But just those little things, I think, all add up just to having things being different, things being better. So I think that, again, this time of year, everybody's optimistic about their season, but I just like what I'm hearing from Todd Graham, what I'm hearing from the players in terms of realizing what did not go well the last 2 years and trying the hardest to change it. So we'll see how it works a few months from now. But for now, I think that if there is an improvement with this team in 2017, we can point to all the things that we saw and heard today and even yesterday at Breaking the Rock ceremony to think, okay, that is the foundation that this improvement started from. So it'll be interesting to see.
Very interesting, and lots of positive attitudes, which is so great around here, ASU football. Keep it at DevilsDigest.com. For Hope Rubino, I'm Sandy Charles. We will be at Pac-12 Media Day next week, so you will not want to miss it. Plus, fall starts next week as well. Keep it at DevilsDigest.com.